Welcome, everybody, to Service Drive Revolution. I'm Chris Collins. This is Christian Lafferty. The number one show in automotive, I think, by a mile, probably.
At least.
But that's because of you, and we appreciate you listening. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you automatically get them. And know a couple things, that when you hit the subscribe button, an angel in heaven gets their wings. So you're doing God's work.
We have no choice but to do God's work.
Yeah.
Right?
So get your friends to subscribe, everybody in your shop. Yeah. Spread the word. It's a revolution. Revolution. That's what it is.
It is good.
How are you today, Christian?
I'm doing
How do you
great.
feel?
I feel
Man,
awesome.
you look like you are in shape. How much are you working out?
5-6 times a week.
You don't eat much.
That's the word on the street. I like peanut butter, though.
What's the difference between reality and word on the street?
I think word on the street's way more reliable.
Word on the street is more reliable than reality.
Maybe not. I'm not sure. You know what?
Do you hate it when I use your words against you?
I don't mind. I expect it.
Is it funny, or how does it feel in the moment?
Extremely entertaining, actually. Sometimes I just wait for it and I wonder where you're headed with stuff, and then I never get to the end.
Christian and I had an interesting exchange yesterday, and I was trying to ask you this morning what it was I was doing to you. And then what was your guess?
I thought you were opening a loop on me, NLP thing.
Yeah, so opening a loop would be like if I said, Christian, I know how you can make $1 million. But first, and then we talk about something else. That loop is in your mind, right? So like I'm gonna open a loop right now for everybody. The show today is about how to retain your technicians. That's what we're going to talk about today. It's a list. It's actually the 5 ways to retain your technicians, because we have 5 on our list. So, I opened a loop. Now the audience has to stick around.
They got to get the goods
to find out what those 5 would be, whether they agree or not. They might disagree with the list, but they still want to be there so they can agree or disagree. So the audience right now is thinking, well, okay, they made a list. Usually it involves parts, and then it'll be some good content, right? But I got to stick around to see if I learn anything. I agree with the list or I hate the list. But that's an open loop. That's not what I did to you.
Right. Well, to my defense, though, you did this yesterday and we still haven't figured it out yet. So I feel like maybe.
Well, I knew what I was doing the whole time. I'm asking you what I was doing.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. It was trickery. It was mind trickery.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Speaking of trickery.
But it didn't work.
No, but it probably did at the same time.
Yeah, maybe.
We're getting into Halloween season, right? So that's kind of exciting. I actually really like the fall, 4 seasons, all that stuff from being from Chicago. But
we don't really have 4 seasons here.
No, we have 1 season. Well, maybe 2 with fire season.
Yeah, right? But, it's no longer fall, winter, spring. It's fire season.
It's the warm season and the fire season. But yeah, what do you call a silly skeleton?
What do you call a silly skeleton? God, sometimes I wish I knew how to answer these for you. What do you call a silly skeleton? Mm-hmm. This is a Halloween joke.
Yeah.
I don't know.
A bonehead.
I like it.
Short and sweet.
How are you feeling? From the last time, did you sign up for TikTok? Now, understand, we get the fact that most of our audience on the number one show in automotive is a little older, a little more like us.
Yeah.
A little up there. You guys need to get the TikTok. You need to download TikTok, and you need to check it out because it's interesting. It's not going to change your life, but it's interesting.
It is a guilty pleasure.
But since today we're going to talk about technicians, there's somebody on TikTok that I follow that I like. His name is Jontis.Kaiser. That's spelled Kaiser. So Jontis, Jontus.Kaiser. And he's a technician that posts stuff about basically how stupid service advisors are.
He raises some pretty valid points.
And it's really funny.
Yeah.
It's really funny. So let's play a couple of these. So this is from TikTok. This is Jontis.Kaiser. He's a Toyota technician, and he works with service advisors that, well, maybe it's the service advisors, but it also could be a little bit of him embellishing, maybe?
Could be.
You tell us what you think. Here, we're going to play this.
The service advisor strike again. This one's written up for customer states. Let's turn that off. Customer states left front wheel shakes violently when hitting bumps. It's an 02 Camry. Let's start there with 2:16 on the clock. And it died and won't restart and is towed in. Yeah, it's got a couple dead holes in it. That sucks.
That sucks.
So what we learned there is that service advisors aren't good at writing descriptions or prioritizing things.
Yeah, so that's the thing that's going to happen is a technician's going to take the RO up and he's going to say, it needs this and this and this to get started, and the advisor's going to say, what about the violent shaking? And the technician has to say, well, in order for us to get that violent shaking to happen, we might have to make the car run first.
Here's the thing, too, Jontis. If you ever watch this, that I want to point out is that it could be a warranty rattle on the RO. Like, who doesn't want it? Was it a 92?
It's an 02, 18-year-old Camry
that doesn't start and shakes when it goes over a bump or something. That, you know what I call that is gravy.
Little juicy.
Yeah, Toyotas don't break that often.
That one does.
I'd be excited about that.
Yeah, that should be a 6-hour
A
RO.
brand new Corolla with a rattle that the advisor didn't verify.
Yeah, intermittent rattle would be great.
Intermittent rattle.
Yeah.
That might be worth a TikTok, but a tow-in?
Well, I think he was also worried that it was a 2:16 p.m. thing. Like, where's he going with that for the diagnosis for the day? Which, again, goes back to an advisor needing to be realistic about how long it takes to figure things out. So,
Here's another one from him.
this was funny, too.
It's rant time. This'll be good, trust me. So technicians hate service advisors. We f***ing hate you guys. You're trash. Like, you're f***ing trash. You know why? Because you're paid to be here. I'm not. I'm paid to produce work. You know how I get proven that I produce work? It's because you pay me. You flag hours for me so that my paycheck increases. This is yesterday's hours I flagged. 12.9. We work 8-hour shifts, so that's pretty good. The problem is, there's 6 hours missing from that. That means you forgot to pay me 6 hours a day. On average, that's about $900 on my paycheck for a week. And you guys want to at me because I don't fill out a multi-point.
Solid.
I love this guy. I love it. What do you think about that? First of all, we hate service advisors.
Absolutely hate them.
Oh, we're going to have to bleep that, I think.
I was going to say that might be hard for our viewers and listeners to hear that because there's going to be a little bit of bleeping attached to that. But
yeah, but the bleep is the F word, just so you know.
Yeah.
It's the F word. Okay, here's one more from him.
On today's episode of Service Advisors Are Very Intelligent People, car comes in, requests a drive belt. He sells it at the counter. That's fine, it's whatever. I say, which one? He says, the left one. The what? The left one? Yeah, the left one. Alternator or power steering? The left one. Come show me. Alternator belt. Well, you gotta take the power steering belt off to do the alternator belt. Oh, that's okay. But it's $22 for that belt. Why don't you just go sell it? Yeah, no, they don't want to buy that.
That's pretty good.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Check him out on TikTok. We got to start making TikToks. What are we going to do on TikTok?
So many things.
We got to get a Chris Collins account on there, and we got to start making them. What would we do? Like, what would we talk about?
Well, I think that the most popular ones would be us
People
laying.
don't give advice on there, right? You
No.
just bitch.
Right, and you have to be laying in bed at like your worst possible angle, also like where your face kind of does this
My face
weird spreading out thing.
Too symmetrical.
That guy reminds me of something too. What do you call an angry nut?
What do you call an angry nut? I don't know what.
A pistachio.
What do you call an angry nut? A pistachio. Genius. Okay, you want to do some questions?
Obviously.
Are you ready for some questions?
I am pumped.
Okay, so we announced this last week. I know a lot of people are sad, the whole thing. But the voice of God has kind of been retired. Now we have a hotline.
Mm-hmm.
We have a hotline. We're going to need a jingle. We need a jingle like 8333 Ask SDR, ding, or something like that with a bell and a thing. And there's got to be like a drum fill in the middle of it. 8333 Ask SDR. And for those who are too lazy, it's 833-327-5737. But if you have a question, call that number, leave a voicemail. So you're just going to ask your question on the voicemail, and then we'll play it on the show. If we play it on the show, you get some of this beautiful swag, which is SDR coffee mugs, T-shirt like Christian is wearing. Those are hard to get.
I love
We don't
them.
sell them. You can only get them by asking questions.
That's right.
Maybe a notebook. What else do we throw in there? Do you know?
Hats. Pretty cool hats.
Oh yeah, the hats are cool. Trucker hat.
There's more. There's more swag than just that.
I don't know if the question's really good. We might put in a little bottle of tequila or something,
Nice.
right? So let's do the question. So question number 1.
Hey, Chris. I have 2 techs that complain that they never get any maintenance service work from me. I upsell all those off of oil changes, but neither of these 2 techs will perform oil changes. They think it's beneath them. How do I deal with these guys? They're great techs, but I can't get them to do these upsells. My lube tech is also a regular tech. He's on flag rate, and I have no clue what to do. Thanks a lot.
So far, knock on wood, I have never sat down with a technician of this personality and not been able to explain to them how business models work and get them to buy in.
Yep.
But you got to kind of step back a little bit. And so if it was me, I would call him in and, or take him for a cup of coffee, something that was non-confrontational and easy and kind of a neutral ground, right? And I would talk to them about just how business works. And I would say so let's say you are Hewlett Packard and you're selling copy machines or printers. How do you make the money? Well, you make the money on buying the ink. And I would just go through different business models and I'd say, okay, and so our business model in the service department is we have loss leaders. The loss leaders, like an oil change, is to drive traffic. And I would just explain how the business works and how those loss leaders are an opportunity to inspect the car and make an impression on the customer. And I would just change their point of view so they understand how the business works and not make it about your feelings or their feelings. It's the business model. You guys are all in the model, the way that it functions, and oil changes drive traffic. And then the traffic is an opportunity. And do we want the opportunity, or do we have a better way? Does that technician have a better idea for a model? And chances are he doesn't. He just doesn't understand the system and how much we lose. I often like to explain to them how much money we actually lose on an oil change to get that lead in for them. We're doing it just as much for the techs, right? To get that traffic in. So I think treating them like an adult and like somebody who's running a business inside of a business and talking about strategy and marketing and business models has always elevated that conversation to something very constructive. I also wouldn't expect when you have that conversation the first time for them to completely flip around. Like you're going to say it, you're going to be friendly and you're going to let them sleep on it. Mm-hmm. And then they'll come back a little different and then you'll talk about it again. But, and then it just might be that the person isn't meant to be a technician and then they're in the wrong industry. But I always like to start by elevating the conversation because people are smarter than you give them credit for. And when you start talking about it in those terms, they often will have good ideas. And when their ideas are then implemented, they own the system.
Yeah, that's great. I think that the one thing too is when you actually reach out to them and you start to talk to them about the business that no one's ever talked to them about before, they get a little bit of gratitude and loyalty as well. So I think that it's pretty cool. We do a lot of times when we'll go into stores and we'll talk about financials and financial training. And I've had a couple of technicians sit in on those classes and they're just blown away because they've never seen it before. They didn't understand how it worked.
Yeah. Also, you made me think of something. We have a course in our on-demand for technicians that kind of does just that. My goal with that course, even though it talks about best practices, how to, be efficient, maximize flat rate and all of that, the real goal of it was to explain to the technicians what the advisors are doing and then explain to them the law of averages like baseball. Like the closing ratios most of the time are 30%. So if you're doing a multi-point on every car and you find something on half of the cars, and then those, half end up being 10, 3 of those are going to sell, right? And so of the opportunities created, so in a day, if you're a technician, you might touch some cars that don't need anything. But if you added something or recommended something on 10 cars, of those 10, most of the time with how terrible service advisors are trained, it's going to be a closing ratio of 30%. But the whole thing breaks down if you're not consistent. If you're not consistently doing it, because that throws the ratios out. That was the whole purpose of that course, and we've had, great feedback on it. And also when I go into shops, technicians on a couple of occasions said, "Hey, I really like that thing you guys did, but I want to know more." And so then we made, on the recommendation of a technician in Virginia, right?
Yep.
We made how the financials work for technicians too, so they would understand what discounting does to the bottom line and lots of fun stuff like that. So I think elevate the conversation and educate them and treat them like somebody in a business, and you'll get away from the attitude and all that. Even with the most difficult of personalities, that usually is a good path to chip away.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question.
Question number 2.
Hey, Chris, awesome show. Just wanted to say glad I found you guys. I listen to the podcast on the way to work every day. It's great. I got a vent. We've lost 4 techs since March. Competitor dealership offered us to pay them 40% more hour on a flat rate, so now we only have 5 techs. And we've been busy. And I can't find certified techs with experience. The shop is still producing the same amount of hours a month after those techs left. And the advisors are going crazy buying time or putting customers in rentals for days because of it. Upper management doesn't want to pay to get experienced techs, and when they do hire techs, they are entry-level techs, and after a couple months, they leave for more money. So how can I convince them not to do that? I feel like we're losing customers because we can't get to them faster. We're booked a week in advance. I've been with the same brand for 20 years. It's been 16 years with this dealership, but I'm thinking it's time to jump ship, maybe for a better organization that's willing to spend money to make money. And our parts department also sucks, but mostly just because of the parts manager. He and the fixed ops manager like to keep the inventory thin and thinks it's better to order everything once the job is sold with next day delivery. Good news is that COVID hasn't affected our sales. We're up every month from the previous year by about 8 to 12%, depending on the month. But any help would be appreciated. Thank you.
Why is he picking on the parts manager, do you think?
I don't know.
I mean, what did the parts manager do? He's not in charge of hiring technicians.
Well, typically nothing.
Typically the parts manager does nothing?
Yeah.
Now, is that one of your weird jokes? Like, what's a mad walnut or whatever?
Yeah, it was an homage to Jeremy.
What's an angry nut?
Yeah. The pistachio.
The pistachio.
Yeah.
So usually the parts managers do nothing.
Yeah.
So if you do nothing, why would you? Oh, you'd be mad at them because they do nothing?
Because they do nothing.
Right.
That's why he's upset.
I mean, this is a lot of a question.
That was
and it kind of contradicts itself.
I counted at least 3 times that I was catching the contradictions.
We lost techs, but we're doing the same hours.
Yep.
Business is the best it's ever been, but it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, the industry is losing tons and tons of technicians. I was talking to somebody from Toyota corporate a couple days ago, and he gave me the stats. And so there's like 78,000 technicians quit or retire a year, and only 33,000 are coming in, graduating in vocational school. So we hear it everywhere we go. You can't hire technicians. We've never not been able to hire technicians, but I will tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that the way that we hire technicians isn't one thing. There isn't one magic pill. The first thing is you have to have an effective labor rate to afford the technicians that are good. The good technicians are worth money and they don't want to leave where they're at. The good ones aren't out looking, and the people that have them know what they have. So if you're just running an ad, most of the people you're going to get are the people nobody else wants. It's rare, unless somebody's relocating, that a technician is out looking for a job that's really good. Mm-hmm. That technician is somebody that nobody's letting good technicians go.
Right. They'd almost rather be miserable where they're working than move their toolbox.
Yeah.
Like it's not so easy to get them to move. And I think that that's a good thing that comes is when we actually do get technicians to move, they'll tell you how hard it was. And it's like they worry about the security and trying a new place and everything like that. It's not easy. So I think that that's the big thing is that, we have to recognize the value of the technician, and that we all play a part in keeping techs and making sure that we retain them.
It's a big part of the future. If you don't have good techs, you're going to have a rough time in the next, 5 to 10 years for sure, because the focus of our industry is going to become fixed ops. And he or she with the best technicians is going to win. So you got to have an effective labor rate to afford the best technicians. Then you got to have a culture and a system where they want to stay, which is something we're kind of going to talk about here coming up. And then you got to be good at recruiting them. And so, I don't know, we work really hard at all of that stuff, but it's not easy. And a lot of service managers think that it's like it was 20 years ago. It's so odd to me that we would rather sit around and talk about how we can't do something instead of figuring out how to do it. Mm-hmm. And also, it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy to say, I can't find technicians. Okay. Good. We will.
Right.
I want my competition saying that, right? Don't we want anybody who's not in our family or in our coaching group saying that?
Mm-hmm. We'll take them.
Yeah. Oh, I say that sometimes to people. I'm like, oh yeah, it's really hard. It's impossible. I just want to feed the negativity.
Right.
Chris Collins said it was impossible. Yeah, sure. Whatever.
Because if they can't find them, they probably can't keep them either.
We will steal your technicians. Trust me. They'll come.
Yeah. We'll make the
But it's not one reason. It's the culture. It's what we'll pay them, the environment, all of it. It's all going to matter. So, yeah. And then I think the question in there is, should he leave, right?
Yeah.
That's always an odd question. How do we decide that for somebody?
I don't think that we can. The thing that I would want to say is if and I think, I don't remember if they said they've been there 15 or 20 years or something like that.
16 years, I think.
It's 16 years of being an advisor. You should be on easy street. Think how many collected customers you should have after
Listen, I worked as an advisor for a dealership where, just to be frank, the ownership and managers were morons. Mm-hmm. And the dispatcher was a moron, and the technicians weren't managed. There was no pride for the service department. They would just as soon let it underperform. And if you're somebody who really cares about customers, it does get to the point where you can't take care of customers anymore if all you're fading is comebacks. And I literally used to have to start calling at 2:00 to tell everybody who'd made an appointment 2 weeks ago that their car wouldn't get in the shop.
Yeah.
So if it, the funny thing with that job was I left and I made almost twice as much money somewhere else with way less headache. So if you're a good advisor and you got a clientele, go take them. That's why, that's why it's important to collect customers more than anything.
I agree. They'll follow you anywhere.
Okay, let's talk about how you retain technicians. So number one is one that I talked about already, having the ability to have a high effective labor rate. So it's in your pricing strategy, it's in the customer experience and systems and consistency, accountability, all of that. Because if you have the highest effective labor rate, an effective labor rate to our experience has never had anything to do with the market.
Not that I've seen.
Nothing to do with the market. The ability to create a customer experience, consistency, and a pricing strategy.
Yep.
So having an effective labor rate that you can pay the technicians, the best ones, whatever it takes. Like we've paid technicians $60+ in Northern Canada where you couldn't find technicians and they came for $60. In Texas, in oil fields where, we're losing all our techs to the oil fields. All of a sudden we were paying more than the oil fields and we had all the technicians we could handle. So It's a mindset more than anything else, right? But you got to have the effective labor rate to be able to afford the technicians. If your effective labor rate is $80 and you need to pay $35 for this technician, it doesn't work.
Right.
So you got to be able to achieve an effective labor rate. Number two, anywhere that I see that they suffer from retaining technicians, you can walk in the break room and tell how they feel about technicians. The lunchroom break room will tell you what you think about how important technicians are. Go to where the salespeople eat lunch and then go to where the technicians eat lunch and tell me the difference.
Yep.
Hasn't been painted in 20 years. There's stuff in the refrigerator in that lunchroom that smells like death, right? A microwave that doesn't work. Like how much does it take to put a coat of paint, clean out a refrigerator and get a good microwave and put a Nintendo in there or something, right? And a TV.
Yeah, I worked at this place once and the general manager actually, probably the smartest thing that he ever did. He was an idiot overall, but...
who was he? What was his name?
His name was Al. Hey, Al.
Al what?
We're just
Al
gonna
idiot?
We'll just call him Al for right now. But
Al the idiot.
We had an older shop, and he walked through the shop with me one day, and we're like, we need to get this done, and this done, and he's like, no, we need to go fix the break room. So we went to the break room and he repainted it. He pulled out the stove and actually ended up with like a double oven, like something you'd see in an ice house, brand new refrigerator with the water filter and the ice maker and everything like that. And he's like, when these guys are in the lunchroom, I want them to feel like they're at home. And I want them to be happy. And what ended up happening is that on Saturdays, they made like breakfast for everybody, and then they actually just cooked in for lunch. And he had what do they call that when you can actually, a griddle? Like he was cooking burgers and steaks and everything like that. He would personally come in and cook for the techs. Well, the morale of the technicians changed. And all I could think of is, man, so he's not worried about the shop, but he's worried about this first. And it was the right move. Because the technicians were really, really grateful that they had a place to work. And like that was the stuff they talked about how their break room was better than anywhere else they'd ever been before.
Yeah, it matters. And so we're not just saying hey, if you fix the break room, that fixes everything and technicians will want to stay there. What we're saying is the way your break room looks tells me how you feel about the technicians. It doesn't stop there.
Yep.
It starts with you putting a value and an importance on the technicians and not thinking about the shop as, mushrooms, just keep them in the dark and feed them.
Yeah, I like that philosophy.
You don't want to do the punchline to my joke? No? Okay, number 3 is train your advisors. There's nothing that runs technicians away quicker than advisors that don't know what they're doing, that are disorganized, confused, and writing 40 tickets a day, barely staying above water.
It hurts.
Like, put a system in place, have a plan for how many cars we're bringing in or trucks every day, and train your advisors how to process customers, time management, all of that. But well-trained advisors will retain your technicians. I don't know how many times we've interviewed an advisor and said, how many technicians are coming with you? And he's like, 3 for sure. Like, I love it when you're interviewing an advisor and you're like, so how many texts will follow you? And they're like, 3 right now. They're already texting me. Look, right?
Yeah, that's how you know you got somebody. It tells you that that's a good advisor, and then it also tells you that the technicians are pretty good too, typically.
So you gotta keep the good advisors and train the ones that you have. Number 4 is get good at recruiting. Like I was kind of mentioning before, is like the good technicians don't want to leave where they're at. So you've got to be better. You've got to have a better story, a better plan, and a better opportunity for them to jump. And so you got to go deep into the psychology. And when we, in our course, the technician tree, how to recruit technicians, I don't know, there's maybe 20 ideas in there on how to get to technicians that aren't looking to jump, because they're not. You got to go to where do they lunch. You got to have events. You're always recruiting, always recruiting. The worst thing you can do is recruit when you need techs. Yep.
Yeah, you got to be doing that's a 365 a year kind of job, right? So I think the other thing that comes along with that too is, and you alluded to this, is that you've got to have the story of your store. It's either the story of you as the manager and leader of the department, the story of the shop and why it's better than every other shop. Like, you got to be prepared during that interview. And one of the things that I've seen as probably a real big downfall is you work so hard, you get a technician come in for the interview, and then you spend the time telling the technician how broken it is and how bad you need them. Well, who wants to come into that, right? So you have to be able to, it's a little bit of a sale, right? Like, why work for you? I think the thing that I would say as a recruiter, you have to remember you're the prize at the end.
Yeah. You gotta sell.
There's a sale that's done.
I think a lot of old time managers expect that it's like 20 years ago and the kids are going to come in and try to sell them. And anymore, for good technicians, you got to sell us.
Yeah, that power struggle, that power
it's flipped.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call that? It's a buyer's market?
Yeah, an employee's market, or a buyer's market.
Number 5, how to retain technicians. Fix your parts department? No, joking. Number 5 is have a hierarchy of performance and look at your shop as a production facility. So many times we go into a shop and the culture is terrible, the technicians are inefficient, and nobody is talking about the thing that's important, which is production. If you are posting the numbers in the shop all the time, you're talking about production every day, you're having little huddles with your technicians and getting them fired up and giving accolades and praise to the technicians that are the highest performers, you're going to attract technicians that are high performers. Mm-hmm. But I've seen this many times where somebody will go out and get a technician that's a high performer, but their culture in their shop is not production, and that technician won't even last 2 weeks.
They'll get bored.
Yeah, you just, everything about your parts department, your warranty department, they don't get flagged on time. Like, it's just a disaster. Mm-hmm. And so you got to make production a priority. You got to, flag the numbers quick. Don't have a month's worth of warranty that hasn't been processed. Like, they need to get flagged the next day, like right away. You need to be on top of that stuff. It's a production facility, and all of those things add up to their mindset and their thoughts on production and what they're there to do.
Yep. The TikTok guy actually brought that up, right? Yeah. He's like, you guys are taking 6 hours away from me and my production. Like, they're aware of what they're producing, right?
Yeah, that's a tech with some goals. Like, he's there to make money. And he's like, 12 hours would be good, but it's missing 6.
Yeah, so it should be 18.
Yeah, it's great. So first one is you got to have an effective labor rate, and that's only going to get harder over time. You got to be able to pay the best. Number 2 is the break room tells me how you feel about your shop. How much you care. It's very clear. Number 3 is you got to have good advisors and train them. Number 4 is get good at recruiting. It's a skill you got to develop. And number 5 is make sure your shop is a production facility and there's a hierarchy of performance. You're posting a hierarchy of who's flagging the most hours, who's winning, have games behind it, but think of it as a production facility. And we're going to brainstorm what we can start posting on TikTok. I think you got to get on there and watch them so then you have some ideas on what we could do. But don't you think between the two of us, we could hijack TikTok?
Oh, yeah. We could take suggestions from the audience, too. Put something in the chat. You guys want us to do something. We'll be trained monkeys.
Most of our audience isn't on TikTok.
They will be after this.
They will? Everybody's going to download? Like Doug's going to download TikTok?
He probably already has it.
Steve?
No, not Steve.
You just go through our list of the managers in the elite group. How many of them are going to... That would be so funny. That would be a great exercise for the elite group is do a TikTok challenge.
That would be great.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah.
And think about how they would be bonding with their kids if we did that.
Right.
Things, and maybe seeing their kids do things they don't want to see. Right?
James is flipping right now. I have the feeling.
I bet you James is on there. He's a good dad. He's watching.
Yeah.
He's paying attention. That was fun, you guys. We will see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.